Welcome back, everybody. It is Friday, and my goodness, today is one of those days that the preparation for the show, given its thickness, made me have a headache. So I have a headache going into just the sheer level of insanity. Starting with this, Karoline Leavitt, everyone's talking about this clip for good reason, where she characterizes the Democratic Party, and not just the party, but its constituency. So the voters. You know how in politics it's kind of like you can insult the leaders, but don't insult the followers, don't insult the voters, and definitely don't make gross generalizations? Well, that has been thrown out of the MAGA rule book, and listen to how she characterizes the Democratic constituency. And then I want to take you on a little journey as to why this is so, obviously dangerous, obviously unhinged, leading to even Hakeem Jeffries, who is not the most aggressive usually in his language, calling Leavitt sick. That's crazy what she's about to say. But within the context of what we've gone through the last few years, and anytime Democrats slip up and say something negative about Trump voters, the explosion of rage and how you must hate real Americans, etc., the fact that she would say this is also brazenly hypocritical. Let's listen.
Proved that the Democrat Party's main constituency are made up of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals. That is who the Democrat Party is catering to, not the Trump administration and not the White House and not the Republican Party, who is standing up for law-abiding Americans, not just across the country, but around the world.
The Democratic Party's main constituency, meaning at least the majority of the Democratic Party, is comprised of, what was the list? Hamas terrorists, so terrorists, violent criminals, and what'd she say? Illegal aliens, which can't even be a part of a constituency, I'll have you know, because they can't vote. Not according to MAGA, obviously, but we just lived through MAGA, in some cases, in a way I had no problem with, saying, whoa, our political process is getting way too dangerous. People are being killed. We got to lower the temperature. You can't call your opponents Nazis. Even if some of them literally said, I love Hitler in chat. Don't call them that. You can't call them the enemy. And I always stay away from such provocative language. But then you go around saying the main constituency is terrorists? What do you think that, in the mind of a lunatic, sounds like? Again, constituency doesn't mean the leadership, which would still be unhinged, because she was attacking Mamdani there, but that would be one thing. And I have more of a, I'm more loose on extreme language about leaders, even though I would also hope we could tone that down. But when you're throwing at the constituents, the voters, it's a whole nother level. And so that's the dangerous part of it, calling your opponents and their voters terrorists. Terrorists was the word that she used. What do you do to terrorists? You kill them, literally. That's the main thing we do to them. And then we get to part two, which is, are you kidding me? Someone reminded me, why did Trump dress up like a garbage truck driver and struggle to get into a garbage truck, and then drive around, or someone drove him around in a garbage truck as he was wearing a garbage man's outfit? Why? Because how dare Biden say mean things about MAGA? I'll remind you of that in a second, but Aaron Blake said, less than a year ago, Biden referred to some Trump supporters as garbage. Leavitt said at the time that it showed Biden and Harris despise tens of millions of Americans. President Trump will be a president for all Americans, she added, as he's going after all of his political opponents. We'll talk about more in depth in today's show. As he's explicitly saying projects that Democrats like, I'm going to permanently get rid of. But we dealt with the aftermath of this Hillary Clinton moment, which is nothing compared to what Leavitt just said. She's the spokeswoman for the White House. And Hillary Clinton, as a presidential candidate, said this about Trump supporters.
Be grossly generalistic. You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
People would, I think, much rather be racist and xenophobic and homophobic than a terrorist. So the way she characterized them was softer than how Leavitt just did. And even I, as a soy boy, said bad.
Soy boy beta cuck.
You never finish it. Why don't you ever finish the soundbite? I want to hear the whole thing.
Soy boy beta cuck, Luke Beasley.
There we go. And I said, I mean, I was a child at the time, but I remember going, oh, Hillary. And then when it's come back up, I've been like, no, don't. And she said half. Half is less than the main constituency. And she characterized them as deplorable, not terrorists. Imagine if Hillary said, let me just be blunt here. Half of Trump's supporters, his main voter base are terrorists. I think she would have just dropped out of the race and all Democrats would have denounced her. But now it's just casual. And Trump's going to be president for all Americans, she said. Before I show you this next doozy, click the subscribe button. It is free, but it supports the work that we do right below the video. Check to make sure you are, even if you think you are. I appreciate it. Here was the remark that got Biden into trouble.
And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware.
Yeah.
They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American. It's
Yeah, so I don't even know how you can get him into trouble for that, because most of it, I don't even know what he's saying. With love, of course. But he says, then he immediately, and all of his people had to come out and say, no, we mean like the garbage is coming from some of his supporters spewing mean stuff about Puerto Rico. That... He didn't make a claim about most or all, and every time he would go out and talk about MAGA being a threat to democracy, he'd be like, some, not all, some, not all, some, not all. And then Fox News ran a story being like, Biden says all Republicans are terrible and threat to democracy. And again, people would rather be a threat to democracy than a terrorist. What did he say? That's my point. He was saying it's floating in the form of some of his supporters. And at the time I said, bad, Joe, bad. Don't say that. But I also know what you meant, kind of. I don't see Puerto Rico except for in Delaware. The only Puerto Rican I know is in Delaware. Yeah, thank you. So that was more egregious than terrorists. Not even pro-terrorists. Because they'll say, the left is pro-Hamas or pro-terrorist. And still they'll mischaracterize. But it's just, they are the Hamas terrorists. How many Hamases voted for Biden? Or whoever. And then Leavitt, in response to that quote, said Joe Biden calls them garbage, Kamala Harris calls them fascists, Tim Walz calls them Nazis, President Trump calls them patriots. Okay. And because of Biden saying that, we had to have this whole news cycle. Because of MAGA overreacting to it. Or you could say it was a fine reaction if it weren't for how they always talk about their opponents. You can't have it both. You could be really kind to your opponents, and then if Biden slips up and says that, or Hillary says that, you go, that's terrible. We shouldn't dehumanize each other like that. But that's only if you yourself hold yourself to that principle. You don't. You just don't. I've tried more than almost every single MAGA I've debated with to be humanizing. And then we had to watch Trump struggle to get into a truck. The annoying thing is Biden used the word garbage. I wish there were as clean of a thing we could do, but dressing up like terrorists doesn't sound. Getting into a terrorist vehicle doesn't sound as cool. See, even like people, I knew someone who made suits and made custom for a Trump supporter, proud deplorable written inside of his suit, and then Trump dressing up as a garbage man and giving a speech and a garbage thing, and that imagery then led to the Piers Morgans of the world saying, Luke, how genius do you think that Trump's political optics are here? And even that, if you're going to be so dehumanizing to us, can you at least give us as easy of a layup as Biden gave you with that garbage thing? Terrorists, I don't even know how to dress up as a terrorist. So then I flash you back to my exchange with Deborah Leah right when Trump won the election.
We're sick of being demonized, as if not more than half.
I'm sick of being demonized.
More than half the country identifies with what I believe more than you, and I don't think you guys will ever understand.
So you admitted that when Biden won? That's what I thought.
We're sick of being demonized, as if.
The crux of the fun part is did you admit that we were all right and better whenever Biden won, but then whenever Trump wins, we have to admit that for you? That's the part that we focused on more. But think about the first part where she goes, we're sick of being demonized. And it's like, okay, I agree. I'm sick of everyone demonizing everyone. But is your response to being sick of being demonized taking the demonization to the next level? So then Hakeem Jeffries, who for much of his time in leadership, I've been like, I don't feel like he's bringing the aggression and the stark rhetoric that may be called for, but here he does it with Leavitt.
It's a matter of deep concern. Like, we've already seen a rise in political violence and hatred in America, and then you've got swastikas apparently appearing in the offices of Republican members of Congress.
He doesn't know how it got there. Did y'all hear that story? Those Republican congressmen, and someone's on a Zoom call, and behind them in his office on his whiteboard, there's an American flag that has in it a swastika, which whoever made that, whether it was the congressman or somebody else, how distorted is your ideology that you think America and Nazism go anywhere together? Did even think about the history of those two? How did those two different movements engage? Yeah, there's the swastika American flag, just the worst desecration you could imagine of an American flag. Sick. And the response from the congressman was, I'm going to launch a investigation to figure out how it got there.
You've got young Republicans engaging in the most anti-Semitic and racist speech possible. Like, this is apparently who many of these people are. They are ripping the sheets off in plain view of the American people. Their words, their actions, revealing themselves in so many different ways. And then you got Karoline Leavitt, who's sick. She's out of control. And
Yeah, but have you heard that apparently her lips move like a machine gun? As Trump told us.
I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, a stone cold liar, or all of the above. But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants, this makes no sense. That this is what the American people are getting from the Trump administration in the middle of a shutdown. So their actions continue to speak for themselves, which is why they're on the wrong side of public sentiment.
Just please, unless she comes out like I'm sure Hillary did, but that was too long ago for me to remember. I know the Biden campaign did, and was like, well, what it meant was what, bah. And unless Leavitt comes out and goes, oh, that slipped. Sometimes the swastika's up in an office. Sometimes you call people terrorists. Like, things happen. You make mistakes. I made a mistake. Then you can't ever complain if you're supporting Trump and okay with that language about how the right gets characterized. Doesn't mean the right's never unfairly characterized. Sometimes they are. But you don't get to complain about it. Because that's the most egregious, dangerous characterization anyone could imagine as we were supposed to be having a discussion about how we lower the rhetorical temperature and make political violence less promoted by political rhetoric, there is no bigger promotion for political violence than calling people terrorists who aren't terrorists, to be clear. Calling terrorists, I mean, yeah. So then Lisa McClain, they keep repeating this same statement. I don't know why they're so afraid of this No Kings rally. The last one was super peaceful, impactful. Millions of people across the country saying, we don't want a king. We don't want an authoritarian. And so they're trying to rebrand it to like trick people into not going or something by saying, no, it's actually the Hate America rally.
This weekend, we'll see mobs of radicals at the I Hate America rally. And you'll see them across the country. These are the same activists who pressure Democrats to keep our government closed.
And I'm just going to, I know it's like, oh my gosh, January 6th, oh yeah. Yeah, I'm going to keep bringing it up. Guess what? There was one time I can think of that was very distinctly, let me word it a different way. Imagine being supportive of the guy who pardoned people who were beating police officers with American flags and then trying to accuse others of Hate America rallies. When No Kings, the whole reason that they branded it that way was not because Trump's a king, but because he wants to be as authoritarian as he can. And No Kings taps into the history of America, how we started this whole thing. And they keep repeating that, by the way. Let me see if I can put this together. It's just they got this talking point. Maybe we can trick people into not supporting the No Kings protest if we call it a Hate America protest.
The Hate America rally.
I Hate America rally.
The Hate America rally. Hate America rally.
We Hate America rally.
The Hate America rally. The Hate America rally.
Hate America rally.
The Hate America rally. The Hate America rally. Okay. The Hate America rally.
They got their talking points. Cool new transition, Jaden. I like that. Very cool. Greg Abbott is saying, the governor of Texas, today I directed the Department of Public Safety and the National Guard to surge focus into Austin ahead of an Antifa-linked protest. Texas will not tolerate chaos. Anyone destroying property or committing acts of violence will be swiftly arrested. Law and order will be enforced. Yeah, of course, people destroying property and committing acts of violence should be arrested. But because we already saw how the last No Kings protest went, that they're so horny for law breaking that they kind of want to stoke it. They want to see, people are just kind of marching. Can they start tear gassing and see if anyone will get violent? So if you are going to one, stay peaceful. Stay peaceful. That's the most powerful message that you can possibly bring. Schumer was being attacked with an AI generated video from Republicans.
Every day gets better for us.
Chuck Schumer thinks playing with Americans' livelihoods is just a game. When asked about the government shutdown, Schumer said,
every day gets better for us.
Really, Chuck? How's that?
Quite a bit of military members and their families in line.
Control towers shutting down.
Critical food assistance for low-income women, infants, and children will now lapse.
The pain is going to increase on the American people.
Because they want free government-provided health care for illegal aliens.
The Schumer shutdown is making things worse across America, and Democrats love it.
So Democrats are still winning on the PR front, but obviously much more importantly, the things they list there are real as to the damage of the government shutdown. And it becoming all about the politics of it is the worst part of our political system. But first of all, that was AI. He did actually, they're quoting the reason they used that. He did say that in a Punch Bowl interview. And he was talking about the politics of it. Each day, people start to understand why we're demanding things from Republicans in exchange for funding the government related to healthcare. It gets better for us PR-wise. Again, I'm not a politician, so I don't want to be on the sidelines saying everything's so easy, but we've just now seen a few clips, and it's like, is it that hard not to stick your foot in your own mouth? Like, it's weird that they're making AI out of it, but that was a real quote. Why did you say that? You know this is going to get clipped. As it's leaving your mouth, be like, oh, off the record. You're in a written interview, you could do that. So that was dumb. And his broader take is not that, but there are demands, and people understand it more as the discourse goes on, and the lies about it being for undocumented immigrants get debunked, and the real demands about trying to prevent these huge spikes. And health insurance costs and roll back the cuts to Medicaid kind of become more clear. You have more time to get that message to people over time. But it's bad that the government shut down, for sure. So don't ever be on the record. It's just, I can't. Who's staffing these people? We need some staff to be like, get it together. Like, for example, people who put together such great PR for Don Jr.
And honestly, if the regime media had an ounce...
Why are your eyes closed? Why are your eyes closed?
...of self-awareness or integrity, they would go on the record saying how wrong they were about all of it.
Yeah, he's apparently thinking he's going to run or might run for president or be on the vice presidential ticket. Lord help us. Whatever's going on causing you to have your eyes shut during interviews.
I don't snort cocaine.
Just maybe work on that before running for anything.